Alright guys, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to build a React project with rock, paper, scissors. So I'm going to show you now what we're going to do in here. So we can select rock, paper, scissors. This is our options. And we got in here like a title on the top. We got the left column where it's going to be, for example, for the player, the score, the computer score. And then when you choose one of the options, let's say I choose scissors, and I press play, we got a nice timer, we got the players playing, and then an animation showing which player wins. So we got in here player 1 wins, scissors beats paper, that's the choice of the computer, and we got in here the score to be 1. And obviously as you are going to play more and more, the score is going to go up. So this is going to be a great project for you to start, learning about React. And this first video that I'm going to do in here, this is all just going to be about how we can actually create the structure of this. So just HTML and styling. If you don't want to do all of these, you can just skip to the next video. And that's it. And if you like this project, I actually just created another one that makes these much more advanced. So I'm going to use TypeScript, I'm going to use the context API, I'm going to use testing as well. So I think it's going to be a great project that you can see now in this course in here in this project, how you can build it just like simply with React. And then if you want to take your skills to another level with TypeScript, with testing, with context API, you can check my other course on that. It's going to be an advanced React project. Alright, so like I said, if you don't want to create all of this structure in here, you can just get the links of the project in here on the description. And that's it. I'll see you now in a bit. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to be using Vite to create our React project instead of a create React app. It's going to be the same thing, but will allow us to start our server much faster. So if you go in here onto the Vite website, we can start our project simply by typing npm create vite at latest, and then we'll ask us some questions. So let's do npm what was it? I'm just gonna copy paste. I'm gonna copy it and paste in here on my terminal, and it's gonna say npm create vite at latest. I'm gonna press enter, and now it's gonna ask me for my project name. So make sure that you are on a correct folder wherever you want to create this project. So I'm gonna call this one React Rock Paper Scissors. This is gonna be the name of my project, of my folder that we are gonna create. I'm gonna press enter. I'm gonna choose React, that's what I want to use, and I'm gonna be using JavaScript for this project. Okay, so we got it in here. I'm just gonna do cd, and I'm gonna go inside of this React. Okay, I'm just gonna press tab, it will autocomplete the project, and I'm gonna go inside. Actually, I'm just gonna open it from here because I don't need in here. I'm gonna press open, I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna go into these courses, and it's gonna be this one. So we got everything right here. Okay. So I'm going to start first of all by creating what we see. So this was the project that I just showed you before. Let's just create like the structure, and then we can start by adding the logic that we need. So let's start with this one. First of all, and by the way, guys, if you don't want to go over any of these things, you can always just grab the files that are in the description in here. So let's get started. Let's go into our app. I'm gonna delete all this stuff that we got in here, and I'm gonna go and start by creating some divs where we can start creating like the container and so on. So let's start with this. I'm gonna go in here and create a container. So I'm gonna be using CSS modules. So whenever we use CSS modules, means that the styles that you apply will only be applicable to these components. So you need to create more. They don't conflict the class names. So I'm going to do container. So styles.container, this is going to be, and what else I'm going to put inside? I'm going to put in here a div, and this is going to have a class name of maybe title, styles dot title ctn. Okay, and inside of here I'm gonna have like a h1 saying rock, paper, and then scissors. And then finally I'm have a paragraph that is gonna say React game. Okay, so obviously you guys probably are gonna asking yourself like, what the hell is these styles that I have in here? If you never used any kind of CSS modules or anything with React, I actually have a video particularly about these on my YouTube channel. You can always go there and search and look for it. So if you want to use this kind of styles that they are only applicable to these component, these app.jsx, we need to import it on the top. Import styles. This name in here is completely up to you. Some people call it CSS, some people call it classes, some people call it whatever. I usually call it styles. So styles from, and now this is going to be the name of your CSS file that you want to import all of these. So this is going to be app. I'm going to name it the same name as this component where we are working in, app.module.css. All right, so you don't need to install anything in particular for this. You just put in here app.module.css. Let me just put the /, means that it's going to be on the same level of directory. So let's create that as well. Okay, so we got styles container, styles type. This is going to be the name of our class, the name of this class as well, and this is going to be some content. Let's create this file. Okay, let's go in here, app.module.css. And now, what are the things that I want? I want to create a class container and a class title ctn. So let's do that. I'm going to go in here. I'm going to put in here container. Okay, so let me just see if I want to go in here and just like start putting some styles. So I want to have in here a width of 800 pixels for this one, and the other one was a title container. So let me just go in here, title container, and let me just look and see. Okay, so I'm gonna put a background color to be white. So this is just like the hexadecimal code for it. I'm gonna put it with a border radius of 5 pixels. So this will just allow us to have this kind of like nice round corners. I'm gonna have some padding of 20 pixels top and bottom and 0 left and right, and then a margin bottom of 50 pixels. All right, so we got this, so we are importing it in here. I also want to put, just so I don't forget, I want to put that my body, this I'm going to put in here in the app.css. I want the body of the page. Look, this is not a class, this is the body of the page. I want to have the background color of royal blue. Okay, so now that we put some styles, let's just like start this project, by the way. So I'm going to open my terminal down here. I'm already in this folder of our project. When you start or a new project with Vite, you actually need to install the dependencies first of all. Okay, I'm going to do npm install. Okay, so this is going to just take a couple of seconds, maybe depending like on your internet connection or whatever. It should be very fast. And once this like finishes installing everything, we can just start the server, and you can always go in here onto the package.json. Look, is already installed. Package.json tells us like how can we start a project. We're going to use this command called dev. So we're going to do npm run dev, and this will start our project in this URL that we got in here. So I'm just going to press Control click, and this will open it automatically in here in our browser. All right, so we got this part in here done. Basically, you know, it's very similar to what we have in here. So the next section we're going to do this part, and then finally this part. Once we got all the designs done, we can start into the logic. Okay, so let's create this next part. I'm going to call this like the mid section. So let's go back in here into our app.jsx. This is going to be our main file. So in here, I want to create a new div. So I'm going to create a new div. Let's just create a div, and I'm going to pass it a class name of, let's say, styles dot. This is going to be our score. So I'm going to call it score container. Okay. So now that we got this, styles.score container, what else do we need? I think this is fine. Inside, I want to have this part in here where you have the player and the score. So let's do exactly that. We have some things going on around everything. I think because this container should be inside of the main container, I mean. Okay. So let's just put this back in here. So inside of this score container, let's go and create another div with, let's just create a div, and I'm going to create with a class name of, let's say this is going to be the score. Yeah, so this is going to be the score, styles.score. And inside of it, I'm just going to put an h3, for example, saying this is the player. And then finally here, I'm going to have a paragraph where I'm going to have the score. For now, I'm just going to hard code this value as 0, but obviously we're going to have this dynamic later on. So now we got this one in here. We got the score. Let's put another one. So I'm just going to copy this basically and just paste it in here, where this time, instead of the player, we're going to have a computer, and I'm going to have the score the same. So I think this is fine. So just like that, we should have this one and this one in here. After that, we can have these kind of sections where basically this is where we're going to see the hands, like which hand do you choose, and the computer as well. So for that, I'm going to create another div, and this one is going to have a class name of, let's say, the results, styles.results. Okay. And inside, I'm going to have a div where I'm going to have a class name of, let's say, player hand, player styles.player hands. Okay. And inside of here, this is where I can actually just like put some icon of our of the chosen hand that you're choosing, if it's rock, paper, scissors, or whatever. I'm not going to put nothing now because I'm going to install a package that will allow us to put that. But let me just put this one in here. So this is going to be the hand for the user, and I'm going to do the same thing for the computer hand. So I'm going to copy these. I'm going to paste it in here. This is going to be the computer hand. So computer hand. Okay. So we got this one in here for the hand, this one for the user. And I want to have one thing in the middle where we're going to see basically like the results, who is the winner, or like some sort of message. So in between these two divs, I'm going to create another div with a class name of, let's say this is going to be our styles.mid column. So this is where we're going to see like the actual results. For now, I'm just going to put, for example, let's say like a paragraph, maybe like a paragraph saying paragraph. So winner, this is going to be the player, and I'm going to put something in here like player wins, or rock, something like this, rock beats scissors, because we're going to have this dynamic as well. Okay, so I got this one and this one in here, and I think for now this should be all fine. Let's of course go and start putting all these kind of classes that we have in here just to style this. So we did the score. No, we didn't do the score. So let's start with the score. Okay. We need the score container as well. Okay. Let's go into our app.module.css. Let's put in here our score container. And for our score container, I'm going to set it as a display of flex in here. And I'm going to put justify content space between. Okay, this is make sure that all these different things that we have, they are going to be inside of this div. Basically, is the score container. And with a space between, each one is going to be in a corner. So they are not together. Okay, let's see. Okay, so here they are. They are just here and here. Okay, so this looks fine. Now, of course, so inside of the score container, we have an h3, basically saying the player, and then we got a paragraph as well. So let's go in here. I'm going to do score container h3, and I'm going to say that I don't want any margin on the top for this one. I don't want, so padding, maybe I'm going to put 20 pixels top and bottom, 0 pixels left and right. I'm going to set a background color to a specific color. I'm going to say, for example, 1848. Yeah, that's fine. And the text color is going to be white, so FFF. Okay, let's see. Yeah, much better what we have in here. What else are we missing? So we got this one, which is going to be the score div. Okay, so score, let me just check what we need to pass in here. So let's go into our app.module.css. I'm going to look for score, and in here I'm going to have it as a width of 200 pixels. Okay. 200 pixels. I'm going to have it with a background color of white. Okay. And finally, I'm going to have a margin bottom of 20 pixels. Okay. Yeah, it's looking much better. This is exactly what I was looking for. And of course, we got some sort of message in here like winner, player, and so on, that we also need to pass some styles. At the moment, we're not going to put anything in here because I'm still going to put some sort of like a counter in here as well. So I'm going to leave this as it is for now. And I'm just going to focus now on this kind of div that we have in here where we're going to select our hands. So let's do exactly that. So the div that we have, it's called results. So let's go and do that as well. So let's go in here. I'm going to go and what is the app.module.css? Results. And on the results, I'm going to have a display of flex. I'm going to have a justify content of space between. Okay, I'm going to have align items to be center. Okay, margin bottom of 100 pixels. Okay, and a height of 200 pixels. Okay, so yeah, we still don't see nothing. So what else do we miss? We miss this one, player hand, and I think computer hand. That's what we need. Okay, so let's do exactly that. Let's go into our app.module.css. Okay, so let's go in here and say player hand, and I'm gonna say also computer hand. And now I'm gonna start applying some styles. Display of flex. I'm gonna say align items to be center. Justify content center. So everything is like nicely centered. Justify content center. Okay. I'm gonna say flex direction to be column. So this is just because I want to have like an icon on the top and then some text underneath, because we're using flex, so you know, just to revert like the direction of it. And the background color is going to be white of this one. We need to have a width of 200 pixels and a height of 200 pixels as well. And finally, I'm just going to have like a border radius of 5 pixels to make the corners like nice and round. Okay, so now that we got this, let's actually start implementing in here some sort of icons, so just we can see something on the page, of course. So I'm going to open in here a new terminal. I don't need to stop it. I'm going to install a package called React Icons. So I'm going to say npm I. You can write down install if you want. And this is going to be React Icons. I'm going to press enter. And this is going to install this for us. And if I want to use some of these icons that are available for us, you can go to, obviously, to the documentation of React Icons in there. There are many different ones. I just grabbed the ones that they look like rock, paper, scissors, really. So I'm going to do exactly that. So on the top of my file, by the way, I'm going to delete this React logo. We don't need this. I'm going to do import, and I'm going to do I'm actually going to copy this because I have this. Okay, so these are the names of the icons if you go into the React Icons website. So if I just look in here and I say React Icons, I'm going to click in here. You got all the different icons. If I select, for example, a hand, look, there's a lot of different ones that you can go in here and select, and give you like the names that you need to grab. So this is going to be from React Icons /FA. So we got the icon for the paper, for the rock, and for the scissors. Now, if you want to use them somewhere in your code, it's quite easy. So we are going to just represent these as like some sort of a component. So this is my hand, and inside of the hand, I'm going to put the component itself. So let me just see, where do I have my components? Are in here. So this is going to be, for example, my rock for the player hand. I can pass like a property, for example, size, if I want. This is to increase the size of it. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing for the computer hand. Okay, I got these. So let's just go back into the project, which is this one. Look, I got this one and this one. And finally, I just want to have like some sort of a paragraph saying, for example, the name of it. So now that we got these, I'm just going to put, for example, a paragraph saying rock. The same thing in here, rock. Okay. Let's just put some styles in here quickly. Maybe if we can, probably we can put something in here. So I'm gonna call this one, for example, the result winner, and this is gonna be the results message. Okay, so this is gonna be, where is it, winner, and I'm gonna pass a class name of results winner. Don't forget the styles dot results winner, and this one styles dot results winner. Okay, so sorry, this is going to be the results message. Okay, let's apply these styles that we want. Let's go into our app.module.css. Okay, let's pass these results winner, and in here, let me just see what I want. I will see, maybe I'll put some font size of like 24 pixels. I will see what looks better, and the color of white. I think that's fine. And then we want the results message as well. So results message, let me just see if I have it in here. Okay, so I'm gonna put the same thing in here, maybe like results message, and I'm gonna put color is also gonna be white. Okay, I think this is fine. Results, yeah, that's fine. Okay, so that's it for now in this section in here. The next part will be, of course, just building this. All right, so let's carry on. The next section that we want to build is going to be this one, where we can choose the different options that we have, rock, paper, or scissors, and we have a button to play. So let's do exactly that. I'm going to create a new section in here. So this will be after the results. I'm going to create a div, and this div is going to have a class name of choice button container. So choice button container. And now we're going to have 3 buttons inside. So I'm just going to have in here a button, and these buttons will have a class name of styles.choice button, and I'm gonna do this styles.choice button container. So each button in here will have the icon, and then, for example, like a name. So I'm gonna do exactly that. So I'm gonna grab this one, is gonna be the rock. Okay. Then under, I'm just gonna write down rock like this. I'm gonna copy these like 2 more times. Okay, so this one is gonna be the paper. So rock, paper, and then I'm gonna use this one, which is gonna be the scissors. All right, let's just see if we got these in place now. So we got the rock, rock, rock. So rock, paper, and this is going to be the scissors. And finally, after these, we're just going to create, let me just see, this is my choices button. So choices button container. After all the buttons, I'm just going to create a new button, really. So I'm just going to create a button, and this button is just going to say play. Okay, so like this. I'm going to give it a class name as well, a class name of styles.play button. Okay, I think that should be it. There it is. So let's start applying some styles. But before, like the last part, we were covering this section of these kind of results. I'm just gonna add a few other tweaks into this section in the middle, which was the results winner and the results message. So I'm gonna do exactly that now. I'm gonna start with the result winner. Okay, so let's go in here, results winner. I'm gonna add in here a margin of 0, and I'm gonna add a padding of 0, and I think that should be about it. Let me just see. I want to add maybe like this is a bit bigger, 32 pixels. I want the font weight, so this is just to make it bold. Okay, font weight bold, and maybe I'm just gonna add a margin bottom of 50 pixels. Okay, and then there was the result message that I still want to do some sort of so results message. I'm just gonna put some font size of 22 pixels. I think this should look much better. That's it. Okay, now that we got these, let's focus on this part. So if I remember, we had this section in here called choice button container. Okay, so let's start styling this one first. So let's go in here, let's pass the choice button container, and let's pass a display of flex. Let's pass the justify content to be center, and let's put a gap in between them where we're gonna have, for example, 50 pixels. That should be it. Okay, so there it is. Look, they are all nicely spaced. The next one that we want is the choice button. So this is the actual button that we want to pass some styling onto it. Okay, so my choice button will also have a display of flex. Okay, we'll have a flex direction of column, so we can see nicely vertical from top to bottom. And I'm gonna have a align items to be center and border to be none. Okay, because you got a border by default with this. Okay, so this is all fine. What we have in here, I want to apply some to this play button as well. So what was the play button? Okay, let's do that. App.css, no, can just delete this. Okay, play button. The play button, let's just see, is gonna have a background color of, I'm gonna put a color in here called bisque, and it's gonna have a padding of 10 pixels top and bottom, 30 pixels left and right, margin top 50 pixels, and finally a font weight. Okay, font weight of bold. There it is, much better. The only thing that we have left is like when we hover this kind of elements in here, we want to make sure that that they are like jumping, that kind of nice animation that we got in there. So let me just see, there was some sort, I think that it was, let's pass it a class. Okay, this is actually a good thing. When you use CSS modules, if you want to use two classes on the same element, look, because you are using these kind of variables, you just need to put these kind of backticks. So you have the template literals, okay, and you convert this into an actual variable inside of this string. And now, so this is the play button. It was not here that I wanted to do. Okay, so I want to do these in the buttons itself, like this. Okay. And now I'm going to create another one, which is going to be styles dot, I'm going to call this one bounce. Okay, let's do that in here as well. So bounce. So let me just see. And let's do that. So I'm going to say that whenever we are going to do any transition into these elements, I want all the transitions to take 0.2 seconds and to have an animation is in and is out. Okay, so this is just to be smooth. And whenever I hover it, I want to have a transform, and the transform is going to be to translate on the vertical axis, on the y-axis, by minus 15 pixels. And that should be everything that we need. Okay, so we got the bounce hover. For some reason, let me just refresh, it's not working. Let me just see, bounce. Ah, okay, is this one working? It is, but for some reason it's going very slow. 0.2 seconds, now it's correct. Okay, much better. And we just need to apply these, of course. Let's copy this class name. Let's just apply these to all the other ones. Okay, the same thing in here, the same thing in here. Okay, much better. Let's see. Okay, perfect. And that's it. Of course, like when we're going to click and we're going to apply a particular style in here when we select it, but this is when we're going to start applying the logic. So that's it, guys. This is about the part that we just styled everything. Now we're going to start really implementing the logic for all of these. Alright, so now that we finish our front-end interface, we can actually start applying some logic. So I'm going to start in here by selecting one of the choices that we have, rock, paper, or scissors. And when I click in one of them, I want to have some sort of logic that will say, okay, I'm selecting a rock. And then when I click the button play, I want the computer to automatically select a hand for it. It's going to be something random. And we also want to add in here like a change of the background color so we know that we selected this choice at the moment. So let's get started with that. I'm going to go in here, and in each one of my buttons that we have in here, I'm going to add on click property. So it means that when we click on it, something is going to happen. So let's do exactly that. I'm going to go in each one of the buttons, and after the class that I got in here, I'm going to put a property of on click. So whenever we want to click on something with React, we can pass this property on click. Let me see if I have it correct. And now I want to run a certain function. So I'm going to put like this, an arrow function, and I'm going to call this function select option. Okay, and this select option is going to have a number of 0 because this is going to represent the index of the actual choice that I have. I'm going to say that rock is going to represent 0, this one is going to represent 1, and this is going to represent 2, like as in an array. So obviously we don't have this function, it doesn't exist, this select option. So let's create this function in here now on the top. So let me just do that. Let's go in here. Before the return, I'm going to do const select option is going to be equals to an arrow function. And inside of this function, I need to pass that value that we just had in there. So I'm going to call this one my hand index. All right. And what I want to do in here is I need to have some sort of state like this one that we have for the count. I think this was initially, let me just, yeah, I don't have this anywhere else. This was just initially when we started the project. So let's do const, and I'm going to call this one in here player hand, for example, player hand. So this is going to be the name of our state. Whenever I want to update the state, I'm going to run this function called set player hand. The name could be anything, but usually we just start with a set and then the name of the state. So let's do use state. This is how you can actually assign an initial value for your state. I'm going to say that initially is going to be 0. Could be anything else. Don't forget that if you use in here use state, you need to import it on the top from React, otherwise it's going to complain. So whenever we run this function, select option, and you pass the index of your choice, I want to update this state, of course. So I'm going to do this one, set player, and I'm going to change the value that was initially there on the state with whatever you pass from this index. Okay, something like this. So we got this one, and I got the on click. So we're going to change this to 0, and I'm going to copy paste and do exactly the same for the other buttons. Okay, so this is after the class name is going to be here. This one is going to be my option 1, and now in here for the button, this is going to be my option 2. All right, so just to make sure that this is working, I'm going to put a console.log in here before the return. So console.log, and in here what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass my player hand state. Okay, so I have already my project run. So if you don't have, you just press that command npm run dev like we did before. I'm going to go in here, I'm going to open my developer tools, open the console. I'll try to put a bit more zoom so you guys can see. Okay, so I'm going to select, for example, the paper. So if I select the paper now, I can see I have a 1. Okay, if I select this one in here, I know that I have in here a 2. So everything looks like is working fine. Awesome. Okay, so now that we are selecting our chance in here, our choice, I want that whenever I click the play button, I want the computer to have a random hand. So let's do exactly that as well. So I'm gonna go down here onto my play button. Let me just see. And I'm gonna call in here on click as well, on click. And I want to call some sort of function. I'm going to call this function start. So if you can see, I'm actually, representing this function in a different way, like we had this one. I had represented this function in this way because we were actually passing a value inside of each function. So in here we have a 0, 1, 2, because this function, I just want to run it. I'm not going to pass any parameter inside of it. I can just call it like this. Okay, so don't put the parentheses like this because the function will run automatically and we don't want that. We only want whenever we click here. So, okay, now let's go to this function of start. Let's go in here on the top. Const start. This is an arrow function. Look, I don't pass anything in here. That's why I represented the function down there like that. So whenever I click this to start, I want to run a function, generate computer hand. Okay, I want to call a function called generate computer hand that will generate the computer hand for us. Obviously we don't have these at the moment, but we are going to do it now. So let me call this one, I'm going to call it before in here, const generate computer hand. Okay, and now that we have these, what I want to do inside is first of all create a random number. So I'm going to do const random number is going to be equals to, and to generate a random number in JavaScript we can do math.random. We have this property and this generates a random number between 0 and 0.99, so it doesn't reach actually 1. So if I multiply this by 2, I'm going to have a random number between 0 and 1.9999. So what I want to do in here is actually, I want to have in here math.random of, actually I want to have these like this. I want to have a random number between 0 and 2.999 because I'm going to do a math.floor. And what the math.floor does is if your random number that you get has some sort of decimal places, let's say you have 2.1, the result is going to be 2. So whatever is your maximum value that you're going to have is going to be 2999. It will always return like 2 for that value. And that's what we want. We want to have a random number between 0, 1, and 2. So this will exactly give us that number. Okay, so now that I have generated this, the next thing I want to do is I want to have some sort of state like we had for our computer hand, and I'm going to call this one, I said computer hand, but it was player hand. So now I'm going to call this one computer hand, and I'm going to call this one set computer hand as well. And this is going to be the initial state of 0. Okay, after we generated the random number, I'm going to do set computer hand to be whatever is this random number. All right, so I'm going to do a console.log as well before our main return of my computer hand. Okay, so let me just see, let me just refresh to see if I have any errors in here. No, everything is fine. So if I'm going to select, for example, this one, I know that we have the 1. And now if I'm going to click, okay, so what was the line 24? Line 24, up JS 24, it means that it generated automatically I'm actually going to put in here some text so we can actually see. Player hand is, okay, and now I'm going to put player hand, and I'm going to do the same thing with my computer hand so we can see it a bit better. Okay, let me refresh. I'm going to select the scissors, should give us 2, okay, and computer hand is 0 because we didn't click. This is the initial state. I'm going to click play, and look, this one stayed the same. It was random, but I'm going to click play again, and look, this time we got a 1. I'm going to click again. This time we got a 2, and we got a 2 again. So basically this is random. The final thing that I want to do before we actually finish this part of the video, is that I want to select some sort of like an active class that shows us like what's our current hand that we selected. So let's do exactly that. So I'm going to scroll down here, and in each one of these buttons, what I'm going to do is inside of the class, we have a class name and we are passing these 2 classes. I'm going to pass another logic in here that is going to say, if my player hand, the state that we have is 0, because this is my first button, right? I want to apply class, so I'm going to call this styles.activeChoice. So if my current state is 0, I'm going to pass this active choice of this style of active choice. If not, I'm just going to pass like an empty state in here. So I'm going to do exactly that. Okay. For the other ones, this is going to be 1, and this is going to be 2. Oh, I see what's the problem. I think is down here we have this extra thing, and that fixes everything. Right, so let me just go back in here and just refresh. Obviously, we don't have this class yet, this active choice. So I'm just going to copy it, and I'm going to go in here into my modules. I'm going to pass this one, and I'm just going to say that the background color is going to be orange, for example. So if I refresh, now this is going to be our initial choice, like if we don't have nothing, and then if I click in here, it's going to change. This is the one that we have chosen, and so on. If I click, I should have a new computer hand, and as you can see, we got everything here working. So that's about it. So I think that the next part now we'll actually start to see like our option in here maybe, and the computer in here. And obviously we just want to display them with the timer. So maybe we can do the timer now. Okay, before we start with the timer, I'm actually going to do a small change in here. I want to create like some sort of a variable that will be like an array that will hold all the values of our rock, paper, and scissors, of the icons, because at the moment we have everything hard-coded, just like this, and we want to make sure that we have this dynamic, of course. So let's do that. I'm going to create in here a new variable called, for example, options. So I'm going to do const options, and I'm going to set this up as an array, and inside of the array I'm going to have some objects. I'm going to have in here a name, okay, and the name of this one is going to be rock. So I know that in this array on the position 0 I'm going to have an object with a name of rock, and then I'm going to have an icon where the value of the icon is actually going to be whatever we are using so far. So I'm just going to copy this, okay, and put it where we are, just here. There it is. And like this, the things are much more organized. We don't need to hard code everything like we have down there. So I'm going to put a comma, and I'm actually going to copy this 2 more times. So position 0, we have the rock, and then we have paper, and then we have scissors. Okay, so we got the names and we got the icons for each one of our options. So I'm going to change this one in here now, because this is the rock, this is going to be the paper, and this one is going to be the scissors. Okay, so everywhere now that wherever we want to put a name or we want to put an icon, we are going to use this variable of options. Okay, so let's go down here, and wherever we have this one, so this is going to be the computer hand, like what you actually selected. So I'm going to put this one in here as curly braces because we are going to put some JavaScript. And in here, because I want to put the icon, I'm going to put options, and then I'm going to put square brackets because options is an array, and I want to grab the icon of the current icon choice that you selected. So remember that we have that state called the player hand, and the player hand in here represents like 0, 1, 2. We already done this a bit before, and I want to grab from there my icon. So this is going to be options. Initially, when you load the page, this is going to be 0 because that's your initial state. But as you are clicking and changing the state, this value is going to change. So it's going to give you different options for whatever you are clicking. And the same thing in here, instead of having hard coded, the rock, I'm going to go in here and I'm going to copy this one. Okay, I'm going to paste it. And now I'm going to put name. So I'm going to do exactly the same thing for these other options. So this is going to be, I think we have the computer hand, we have the player hand up here. So we actually, let me just copy this, paste it in here because I was putting this in the wrong place. Okay, this is the computer hand. Look at the styles in here. So this part in here on the top for the player hand, this is fine. But for the computer hand, we want to have the state from the computer hand icon and the options for the computer hand name. Let's just test to see if this is working. So I'm just going to refresh. Initially, when you load the page for the first time, if you remember, our state is with 0, so represents rock. The same thing for the computer. But if I change this, look, this changes automatically for whatever you are selecting. Perfect. And the computer only gets generated whenever we click play. Okay, so if I click play, I should see in here the new hand automatically generated. So if I click, actually nothing happened because the new generated was the same. So let's click again. Look, now we have paper, paper again, paper again. We have scissors, rock, paper, paper again, scissors. Is random, of course. All right, so now that we got these, the next thing that we can actually start doing is the timer. All right, so let's get started with this timer. So whenever we click in here on the play, I want to see like a timer instead of this final message. So we're going to our mid call. So this is our mid call. I'm just going to put some space in here so we can see it a bit better. And I don't want to display these at the moment. What I want to display in here is going to be a timer. So I actually want to go in here on the top and create a new state. So this new state, I'm going to call it timer. And then whenever I want to change it, I'm going to call set timer equals to use state. And the timer is going to start at 3 because I want to see like a countdown, like 3, 2, 1, and then show the options like the hand that you chose and the random one from the computer. So we got a new state timer with initial value of 3. So we can actually go in here down on the middle and just represent that. So let me do that. I'm gonna call this one like a paragraph, and I'm gonna pass a class name of styles.timer. Okay, and the value is going to be the timer from the state itself. Okay, so let's pass this kind of class into our app.module.css. Just going to go down here. I'm going to put my timer, and the timer that I want to put in here is going to be with a color of white. And I want to have a font size, maybe 200 pixels. We will see now how does it look like. Exactly, this is perfect. So obviously I don't want this to be showing straight away all the time, but we are going to fix this in a second. So now that we got our timer in here, we will have to create some sort of a use effect that will allow us like to generate this kind of timer. There are many different options, but I'm going to use the use effects from React. So let's do that. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to do, actually I'm going to put this in here on the top. I always like to put my use effects. So use effect, okay, passing a function inside. Okay, and I'm gonna pass in here empty dependence array. So when I created this use effect, automatically imported in here on the top from React. If it didn't for you, you just need to add this on the top, otherwise it will complain. So what is the use effect hook that we have in here? Basically is like whenever you pass a use effect like this with an empty array as a dependency, means that the code inside of this function will run once when your page is completely loaded, just run one time. But you can actually pass some dependencies in here, meaning that whenever some sort of a value changes, you want to run this again. And that's exactly what we are going to do in here. So I want to obviously keep this running. So I'm going to create a new state. And this new state is going to be run timer and set run timer. And the initial value for my timer is going to be a boolean. I'm going to say false. So it means that whenever you load a page, the timer should not be running. Okay. So that's why I have this initial value in here of false. And whenever you click the button to play and we are going to run this function of start, I want to generate a computer hand, but I also want my timer to start. So I'm going to keep track of the timer to start and stop with these values in here. So I'm going to copy this one. And actually I want to this one, set run timer, like this. Okay. I'm going to say set run timer to true. So we can keep track of this. All right. So now that we have this run timer, what I want to do in here is I'm going to do an if statement inside of my use effect that is going to say if we have run timer, that means that the timer should actually be running. Okay. And my timer, which is this value of 3, okay, is greater than 0. Okay. If this happens, what I want to do is I want to create a set timeout function. Okay. So I want this function to run every 1 second. So I'm going to put in here 1000. This is 1000 milliseconds, which is the same like 1 second really. So it means that I want to run this function that takes 1 second. And what this function is going to do is going to update our timer. Okay, so I'm going to do set timer to be whatever was there from before timer. So this is going to be 3 minus 1. All right. So to make sure that this is going to be continuously like, because if you just do these once, all right, so let me just go in here and I'm going to press play. Look, nothing is actually happening in here because, you know, you need to put in here some dependencies of keeping track of these values whenever it changes, because this function is only going to run once when the page loads, right? So look, if I click, nothing is happening. So we need to keep in here one of the dependencies, which is going to be the run timer. Okay. And what it means is like whenever this run timer changes from false to true, anything changes, this is going to run. So look in here, I'm gonna press play, and then it changes to the 2. Obviously, because these only changed once, this only gonna run once, the code inside. So we need to keep another dependency in here, which is gonna be the timer. Okay, so whenever the timer also changes, this is gonna keep running as well. So obviously this is gonna continue going down. Look. Okay, so you got in here 3, 2, 1, and then 0, because this code is only going to run if our timer is greater than 0. So for our last thing in here of the if statement, I'm just going to put in here an else if. Okay, if we have a run timer and the timer is less than 1, which is this case in here, like 0. I don't want to see 0. I only want to see 3, 2, 1, and that's it. So if we have a run timer and timer is less than 1, I want to set my run timer to be false because I want to stop the timer, and I want to reset my timer in here on the top to go back to 3. Okay, so set timer to be 3. Okay, so I'm going to click in here, I'm going to press play, 3, 2, 1, and then it keeps going back in here to the 3. Okay, so down here we can just fix this part with this one. Okay, so instead of displaying this all the time, I only want to see this timer when we have our run timer. Okay, when the timer is running. So run timer, and we have this. If the timer is not running, I don't want to see this on the page. Okay, let me save it. Let me go back, refresh. I'm gonna click something in here, play, 3, 2, 1, and it disappears. So I think we should focus now, once we have this, to make sure that we got these 2 hands like not showing. Meanwhile, you know, the counter is just going down. We will not display them, but we will have those kind of animations of 2 hands like they are playing. So that's exactly what we're going to do next. Okay, let's add these animations when we are playing. So we want to get rid of these. Initially, we don't have nothing of these. And we want to have those kind of animations when we press play like this. So we don't see nothing, we just see the hands like shaking. Let's do that. So in my player hand, this part that we have in here, I'm gonna just comment it out. Same thing, like we're gonna use it after, but not now. So what I'm gonna do in here now is I'm gonna put run timer. So this means that if we are actually playing, the timer is running. I want to just display a certain thing, and that certain thing is going to be a div with a class name of, I'm going to call this one styles dot player shake. Okay, so I think that's about it. So I'm going to put this one in here, and let me close the div as well. So what I want to put inside of here is going to be my options. If you remember the variable that we created before, the option 0, because I just want to see the hand close. So we're going to use the hand like the rock, and then dot icon. Okay, I'm going to do exactly the same thing for the computer hand, but obviously in here for the styles, I'm going to put this one computer shake. Computer shake. So if I go down here, I refresh, we don't see nothing at the moment. We comment it out and we say that we only display this when the timer is running. So I'm going to select scissors, I'm going to play, and look, we have some hands like that in there. Okay, so let's actually style this a bit. We have the player shake, computer shake. So let's add this in here into our CSS file. So for the player shake, what I want to do is I want to add some sort of animation. All right. And I'm going to call this animation. You could call it anything that you want, but I'm going to call it player shake animation. So this is going to be my animation. is going to last for 0.8 seconds. It's going to be up to you how much time do you want your animation to run, but I think this is a good one. I want to have a is in out, so it's going to be is to in and is to out, and then I want this to run in infinite time, because after we're just going to make it disappear, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so let's create this animation. So I'm gonna go in here. Guys, if you want to know a bit more about animations and you are not too sure, I have a course just exactly for CSS animations. You can always have a look in there. It's quite easy. As you can see, you just pass the animation property, the name of the animation, how long you want to take, how is the smoothness of the animation, and if it's going to run once or infinite times or whatever. So let's create the animation with a name. It's not like this. We need to do at keyframes. I think it's lowercase like this, at keyframes, then the name of your animation, which is like this, and then I'm gonna say that I want the animation from 0%, okay, up to 100% of the time. I want to have a transform, and this transform will allow me to have, for example, the scale, and the scale Y is like the vertical one. I want this to go -1, so this is gonna transform your whatever icon or whatever you have in there, your element vertically, and then I'm gonna do a rotate, and I'm gonna rotate this -80 degrees. Okay, so, and then I'm gonna go on to the 50%. Okay, because this is gonna continue to go on the 50%. I'm gonna transform this with the rotation. Let me see. I think for this one, actually, I was doing wrong. So probably this is the player shake animation. So for the player, I only want to have a rotation, let me see, of 100 degrees. We will test this out now just to make sure it's working. A rotation of 100 degrees, and then when we surpass the 100%, because this is an infinite, is all the time running, I want the transform after to rotate maybe 80 degrees. Okay, let's see if this is working. Okay, let me just scroll down here. Let me just refresh. So it should be this one, the player animation. Okay, look at that, nice. Okay, and we want to do exactly the same for the computer, but the other way around. So for that, let's go in here and create computer shake, and this is going to be very similar. Okay, this time is not going to be the player shake animation, but it's going to be the computer shake animation. It's going to be the same times, and now let's create that one. Okay, I'm going to copy this one, paste it down here, pass it this name of computer shake animation. Now here we need to change this a bit slightly, because we kind of have to flip the actual icon, so they are like playing against each other. They're pointing on the same direction, I mean, and that's in here where we want to use the scale of -1. So this is to flip it, and now the rotation is going to be -80 degrees. And I'm going to copy this one because I want to do it in here exactly the same, and this time is going to be -100 degrees. Okay, I think this is correct. Let's just refresh. Okay, there it is. Look, it looks quite well. Perfect. So now that we got these animations going on, obviously when everything finishes, your run timer finishes, you just don't see nothing. So we actually want to see now, you remember that we had this before, like the hand of the player, oh sorry, this one, the hand of the player, or this one. So we're gonna add it. For that, we actually need to have some sort of some results. The results that will be like, we need to know who was the person that won or not. So that's exactly what we're going to do next. We're going to do next is based on the hand that we selected and the computer what hand, we need to figure out who won, because you know there's the rules, like for example, paper beats rocks, rocks beats scissors, and so on. So we need to implement that logic to see who wins, and then we can display our hands, and we can display the text to see who win, and then update the score. Okay, so the next part that we're gonna do is really this logic to see who won. Okay, so let's start implementing this logic to see who wins the round. So let's go in here, and I'm gonna create a new state in here on the top, and the state that I'm gonna create is gonna keep track of who is the winner and whatever is the message. So I'm gonna go in here, I'm gonna do const results, and this is the state. Whenever we want to update the state, we're gonna call this function called set results. And now this is going to be equals to a use state. Remember that a state could be any piece of data that you want. So I'm just going to put in here as an object. So I know that results will be an object with a property called winner. And initially it's just going to be empty because, you know, you still didn't play. You don't have any winner yet. And then it's also going to have a message. So the idea in here is like we're going to have stored on the results who is the winner, if it's the player or the computer, and then you got a message that we're going to display that is just going to say, for example, rock beats scissors, or for example, scissors beats paper, something like this. So we can actually see a message that is according to whatever is the choices of the player and the computer. So now that we got this state, we can actually implement our logic. So I want that whenever our timer, if you remember, we have that counter that go 3, 2, 1. So this part in here was the part that we were reaching the counter 0, right? So when we reach the counter of 0, we say that, okay, let's stop the timer. Let's reset our timer to 0. And this would be the exact time that I actually want to go and check what's the logic to who won. So I'm going to do exactly that in here. I'm going to do play. Okay. So I'm going to do play like this. We don't have this function yet, so we will create it now. So I'm going to go down here. And for now, just to make sure that this is working, I'm going to do console.log. So I want to see this console.log of playing whenever I whenever I click play, and it's going to go 3, 2, 1. When it reaches 0, that's when I have to see this console.log. Okay, let's see if this is working. So I'm going to go in here into play. I'm going to press 3, 2, 1. And there it is. Look, we got in here playing on our console. So that's it. So let's start applying the logic that we want in here into this playing. So I'm actually going to comment this out. I don't even need this anymore. So I'm going to do in here an if statement that is going to have something like this. If options and then player hand dot name equals to rock. Okay, so basically what we have in here is like, you remember that this is our state that keeps track of your choice. Whenever you click in here is going to be 0. Whenever you click in here is going to be 1. Whenever you click in here is going to be 2. So this is the value of player hand on our state. And we want to go into our options. Okay, if you remember, what are our options in here? We have the index of 0. We have the index of 1, index of 2. So I want to check that whatever is the choice of the player, if is, for example, let's say you chose rock, and okay, the options and then this is going to be whatever the computer chose. So the state computer hand dot name equals to rock. Okay, if this is the case, obviously it's going to be like a draw. So what I want to do is update my results on the top, set results to an object, because the result is an object, with the winner is going to say no one, and then the message, so the winner is no one, and then the message I'm going to put in here as we have a draw. Okay, so at the moment we only have this case, so we need to go through every single different case. So I'm going to start inputting in here first of all the cases that they are draw. So I'm going to do else if, and I'm going to copy this part, and now I want to do paper, and I want to do paper. Okay, I'm going to copy the exact same thing. Okay, I'm going to copy this once again. Okay, this time if we have scissors and scissors, just like this. Let me increase this so we have a bit more space. And again, I'm going to update the state with this. So we have these three cases where there is a draw. And now we need all the other cases where the player is winning or the computer is winning. So let's go through all the cases where the player could win. So I'm going to do in here another else if. I'm going to copy this stuff that we have here. Okay, so let's say that we chose rock and the computer chose paper. Okay, so if we choose rock and the computer chooses paper, let's update the results. Okay, so the winner in here, if we choose rock and the computer chooses paper, so computer, the message that will be, okay, so is going to be paper beats rock. Paper beats rock. So whatever message you want to put in here, you could say rock loses to paper, something like this. Okay, so rock, paper, and we have another one. So another option that we want is going to be if we choose rock and the computer chooses scissors. Okay, so if that's the case, okay, the winner is going to be player, and the message is going to be rock beats scissors. Okay, so we have all these cases that the user can actually choose. So we got rock, paper, we got rock, 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 and scissors. Now let's go to another options. So if this time we don't have rock, but we have paper, and the computer could be, for example, rock. Okay, so what's going to be the result of this? Let's just bring it here. So if we have paper and the computer has rock, player is going to win, of course. So paper beats rock. Okay, I need to put in here an else if. Let's go to the other case now, where we have paper and the computer has scissors. Let's go in here and let's update the results of these as well. So if we have paper and the computer has scissors, the computer wins. Computer, and we're going to have in here scissors beats paper. Okay, so we got paper, rock, paper, scissors. We only miss now the case where we are selecting scissors. Okay, so if the player chooses scissors and the computer chooses rock, okay, so obviously the computer is going to win. So computer is going to win, and we're going to say rock beats scissors. Okay, so yeah, so rock, beat, scissors, and we have one final one, if I'm not wrong. Okay, which is if we have scissors and the computer has paper. So if we choose scissors and the computer chooses papers, the player is going to win. So scissors beats paper. So I think that now we have all the different cases now, if I'm not wrong. So because now we are updating the state with these kind of results, who is the winner and so on, down here, okay, where we had our hands, so we can actually add these in now with some sort of logic. So I'm gonna put the logic in here. This is our state results, and I'm gonna put a question mark in here dot winner. Okay, so what this means is, so let me just put this and okay, we might need to wrap this into, if you remember, whenever you are using React, you always need to have like a parent element around. So I'm just going to put an empty fragment in here from React. So I only display this message if we have a winner, okay? Because initially the winner is completely empty, okay? So I'm going to put in here the winner is going to be results. And I'm going to put in here the question mark because initially there is nothing in there. So if you try to do results.winner and then, for example, results is undefined, it might give you an error. So I'm going to put in here, this is going to be the results winner. Actually, we don't even need because we have an if statement already in there, basically. So this is going to be the results winner. And this is going to be the results.message. Okay, so this is going to take care of our message whenever we start playing. And obviously we want to see the hand as well. Okay, so the hand is going to be something similar, and I'm going to do in here that the same thing, like if we have results dot winner and okay, I'm going to do the same thing in here. Make sure that I wrap these like this with a fragment too. Okay, so if we have some winner, we can display the hand, and I'm going to do the same thing down here with the hand. Okay, like this. And I need to put some sort of fragment too. Okay, so I believe that we should have everything now working. So let's try it. I'm going to choose paper. I'm going to press play. We should see the timer, the handshake. Okay, so we chose paper. The computer chose scissors. Obviously, scissors beats paper. The winner is the computer. All right, so if I try to now click in here and play again, look, our previous message is still there, and oh, we have a message in here say winner no one, we have a draw, so that's all good. But what we want to do is like whenever we play again, so we are gonna be in here the start. Whenever we have in here the start, we actually want to reset, because if you're gonna play again, you want to clear the results. So I'm gonna do in here set results to be winner nothing, and message to be nothing as well. Okay, so that should fix this problem that we had. So I'm going to go in here, paper, I'm going to choose scissors, I'm going to press play. Okay, and there it is. Look, scissors, rock, winner, computer, rock beats scissor. And if I try to play again, I'm going to choose rock this time for me. Okay, I'm going to go in here, I'm going to press play. Okay, so rock, paper, paper beats rock. Okay, so this is all working fine. the last thing that we need to do in here now is going to be to update our score to see who is the person who is winning the most. Okay, so let's go into our score. But if you remember before, when we were selecting an option like this, for example, we got our result. And then in here, if I press scissors, for example, it's going to change what we have in here and still display. So I actually want to reset this. So whenever we click one of these options, I want to reset the results. And if you reset the results, you will not be able to see what we have in here and then just like play normally. So when we click any of these buttons, we are calling this function called select option. So where is our select option? Up here. So I'm going to say set results, and I'm going to do the same thing like we did somewhere up here where we reset the results. Just going to copy this. Okay. So let's try it. And this time I'm going to choose scissors. Okay, let's see who wins. And there it is, no one. And if I choose rock now, everything is gone. Is exactly what I want. So we can start fresh. So paper, got paper, and then computer choose rock. Winner is the player. Paper beats rock. Exactly what we want. Perfect. So let's just update our score now. So for that, I'm going to create a new state for that. So const, I'm going to call this score. Whenever we want to update it, I'm going to say set score equals to use state. Okay, and I'm going to put in here, this is going to be the player. So initially this is going to be 0 and the computer is going to be 0. So now that we have a state that takes care or controls really the score of each one, the player and the computer, wherever we have these hard coded in our code in here. So remember, this was the player, this was the score, the computer score. Let's go in here and put this as score.player, and down here I'm going to delete that and do score.computer. Okay, so let's just refresh, make sure still there, so it's working fine. I'm going to just change these just to make sure that it's working. I'm going to put 7 and 8. This is just to see if it's working. Look, 7, 8. Perfect. So let's reset this back to 0. That's what we want. And now, let me just copy this set score function. Whenever we are running our logic in here to see which one was the person that won, so we want to actually update the score. So if we have draws, the score is not going to change for no one, so we don't want to update the score. So we have a draw, we have a draw, we have another draw down here, and this is where we actually start to see results like when someone wins. So in this case, the computer was the winner, so I can, so I want to just underneath, still inside of this if statement, okay? So computer win, so I'm gonna say set score, where basically I want to bring everything that was there from before, from the score. Basically, I'm just gonna grab the score from the player and the score from the computer, and now I'm gonna overwrite the score from the computer with whatever was there from before, so score.computer plus 1, because you're going to increase it like by 1 every time. So I'm going to select this, and everywhere where the computer won, I'm going to paste this exact same logic because it's the same really. So in here was the player, the computer in here won. Okay, so we pass it in here. Now we have another one that the computer won. Okay, so basically we got 3 cases where the computer wins. So as you can see, 1, 2, 3. So let's do the exact same thing now when the player wins. So let's go in here. So we want, of course, to set the player score to be whatever was the score from the player from before plus 1. Okay, so I'm going to copy this, and the player won this case as well. And there's last one. Okay, so these should be in here. Okay, so let's go in here, let's press and see who wins. Okay, so the computer wins, scissors beats paper, and as you can see, look, the score of the computer. Okay, let's try again. I'm going to choose the scissors. It's playing. Okay, winner is the player, scissors beats paper, and we got 1-1. And as you can see, this is working. Let me just try one more just to see, like 2-1 or something like that. Okay, there it is. Winner, computer, scissors beats paper, and that's it. So that's it for this project, guys. I really hope that you enjoyed. It's like a basic React project, but I'm actually, like I mentioned in the beginning, I'm actually going to do another project exactly like this one, but we're going to use TypeScript. We're going to use the context API. So we're going to divide, like sort this kind of logic in different components. And we are going to use testing. So we're going to test every single thing. Like if you click a button, you want to make sure that it's working. If you click play, you want to make sure that the timer is working and things like this. So it's going to be a more advanced, but it's really good for you to start getting used to these projects, because that's how you're going to work in a company. So that's it for me, guys. Hope you enjoyed this course, and I will see you in the next one.